Welcome to another week where we speak with our security awareness professionals in the community. And we're really excited this week to have Ava Woods join us. Ava, thank you so much for taking the time and giving of your own insights and experiences. We'll be talking about how to communicate the value of your security awareness program, which I know can be a challenge. So Ava, we thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Um,
Thanks for having me join, Ayelet. To give some background on me, I'm a security awareness leader who's worked across several industries, so defense, tech, financial institutions, and across several different sized companies, as small as 5,000 to 200,000 employees. And of course, the commonality across all these, different types of companies is that we have folks who are doing one thing and we want them to do something different, right? There's
right.
that change management component. And so it's one of my biggest missions to find like the best, the most effective methods on how we make that journey and push that transformation. So pleasure to be here, really excited, and thanks for the invitation.
Thank you. Well, we're really excited. So let's talk about, let's start with just the challenges, in communicating the value of a security awareness program. What are some of the misperceptions that you see, or just some of the big roadblocks that come up for most programs?
So I think there are three big challenges with being able to
Mhm.
communicate value. The first thing is, we're always seen as this entertainment crew. Like, here are the awareness folks. They have funny content. They have funny videos, and and when we're in that light of being the entertainment crew, it's
Mhm.
hard to tie to the substance, the impact that we're making, and really the
Mm,
value that we're creating for the company.
right.
Um, So it's really being able to position yourself as, a group, a program that provides the service to the organization that has this value to the organization, and not just, oh, they make great content. There's a need for great content, right? Like, how do we get people to move from one place to the next? We have to get them engaged. We have to get their emotional buy-in, right?
Right.
So yes, we're entertaining, but we're not the entertainment crew. Um,
Nice. Yeah. It's a
Another
nuance.
thing, sorry,
No, I was saying that's a nuance, right? That gets missed.
right? Um, Another thing is, and I guess like carrying over from the entertainment crew mentality is not knowing what to measure that shows success. Um,
Mm,
and think
okay.
about it again, five funny videos. Sure, people saw it, but did it make an impact? Did it really move the needle? Um, Engagement is just one piece of the journey, right? So that's one
Right.
of the challenges too.
Well, also, when someone is doing what they're supposed to do with security awareness, right, then you won't see an incident. So how do you show, where there's that lack of in those incidents, right? It's hard to kind of show. So you have to look at it from other perspectives, right? Like the trend going down in incidents, perhaps, or reporting going up. Are there other KPIs that you kind of generally recommend people to look into?
Yeah, so I think it can come down to showing the behavior change. So, right, reduction in click rate, right? That's like one of the easiest ones. Reduction in incidents, think policy violations. If you do walkthroughs and you're seeing who's leaving their computers unlocked or who's allowing people to piggyback in, you have
Mm,
those metrics. But then there's also the power of storytelling. So, this kind of ties into culture where people will email in and start requesting training, or they might email in and say, hey, here was a potential incident that got caught, and it's
mhm.
thanks to the content that you've put out. It's thanks to the processes you've helped us rejigger. So
Right.
there's also that storytelling element that is very important and helps again with that emotional connection, like that buy-in that we need to
Mhm.
further our programs.
Okay. Okay. So you shared a little bit with us about some of the challenges. Um, did we cover all three?
So the third one is actually the process of whittling down awareness and training to a couple of controls,
Okay.
right? So from a compliance perspective, did we put out training? Did they take it? Are we sending messages every now and then? And that's it. And if we use that as our mile marker, we're always going to fall short of really showing the value of our programs,
Mm,
right? We're enablement functions, right? We enable people to move from one place to the next. And we help them spot things, address things, um, become part of the defense, right?
right.
Of our company. Like we need to make sure that we're tying to that and not just did I put out training this year? Did I put out a few comms?
Right.
Right.
And that goes back also to what you're saying, the storytelling also kind of creating that connection between what you're doing and the impact it's had on that qualitative scale as well. Right.
Absolutely.
So, what are some of the recommendations that you have for security awareness managers who might be a little bit newer to the scene? They just got handed the hat of do this, create this program, and they've been running their program. But what are some of the things that you recommend to do and like not to do? Kind of just the general, you know, uh, things to try to strive for, best practices, and what to hopefully avoid.
So I'm sorry, I just got a spam call.
Oh,
Um which we're all getting. Um so again, three things to do. Understand the value of your people, so the people who are part of your program. Understand your sphere of influence, so how far your program actually impacts beyond just your day to day, and then to create a program heartbeat that everyone hears. So
okay.
to go back to understanding the value of your people, you think about the people it takes to build your program, right? You
Hmm.
need folks who are good at communicating. You need folks who understand behavior change management. You need people who understand how to best educate adults, right? You
Yeah.
have these key skills, competencies that are the gems of your team. So that can be your direct team, or that could be your functional team that you work with to put out this program.
Hmm.
Now, when you look at those competencies, when you look at what can my team do, you can start looking at what other areas of impact can I have. So if you have comms folks, right, they're really good
Hmm.
at really taking complex messages, making it simple for everybody to understand. Um, there are some avenues that are tied to security awareness where you can leverage them and work your magic. So let's say emails, right? Emails
Hmm.
that look fishy get reported and nobody likes that, right? You have all levels of leadership who get very frustrated when their key messages or the programs they're putting out are getting reported or not being um, responded to because they come off, as fishy. Well, how can you leverage your awareness team, your functional or direct team, to help solve for that problem, right? That's one way that you're showing value beyond just I deliver training and awareness communications every now and then, right?
Right. Kind of
Uh,
spinning that opportunity
correct.
to kind of train them and say, let's help you not make a fishy email. This is what we want and this is what we don't want. And then indirectly also educates at the same time what fishy emails look like.
Exactly. And
That's
being
great.
intentional
Great idea.
about it. Be
Hmm.
very intentional about it. Keep your ear to the ground. And that kind of rolls into the second recommendation, which is to
Hmm.
understand your sphere of influence.
Okay.
How does your program impact others in the organization? How
Hmm.
does your program impact the SOC, so other members of the security team? How does your program impact some of the most key fundamental parts of the business, like learning, right? If there are things that
Right.
you're trying to achieve within your training program, your security training program, that are dependent upon um, a strong corporate learning strategy, then you make
Mm-hmm.
sure that you're part of that conversation where you're saying, hey, we have these needs, and you know they're aligned very similar to the organization's lean. Like, how are we tying in? What can we do for you to help move the needle in terms of a strong, like, learning strategy, corporate learning strategy, right? Like, that's another way. um,
Right.
I think the beautiful thing about being part of, like, security awareness and having that program is that it is centered on the people. There
Hmm.
is no one who is immune from the touch of security awareness in a company,
Right.
right?
Right.
And you boil it down, communications, training, or learning, behavior change. It's going to touch everybody. You've got the core competencies. Really, really, really understand all of the players, how you can help those players, how those players can help you. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that is something that will definitely help, demonstrate the value of your awareness program.
So really just being actively involved in aligning with the company mission, the company focus, and those different key players within that as well.
Exactly. Um,
Okay.
and that funnels into the third piece, right? Creating a program
Mhm.
heartbeat that everyone hears. Um,
Okay.
I'm a big believer in, if people can't hear the heartbeat of your program, do they know it's alive, and will they continue to fund it?
Hmm.
Um, so, in considering the sphere of influence, in considering your, very specific goals, objectives, like, find a way to create this echo, right, of your program plans. Get buy-in early. You want to make sure that everybody knows about the plan. Um,
Hmm.
that's not just leaders, but that's employees too.
Right.
So, your annual plan, for example, you've got your security awareness plan. You're like, here are all the topics I'm going to talk about through the year. Here are the key risks, the areas that we need to address. Make that available to all the employees. Have
Mhm.
a place where you're putting all of that info. You're providing updates. Here's what we've done with whom, right? Make sure employees
Right.
know, right? And that includes, that'll go up to, like, middle management, your leaders. You've got a heartbeat with your leaders, hopefully through some sort of reporting mechanism that you've put in place. Um,
Mhm.
this is, I think this is so critical. We don't put ourselves out there enough. We kind of get hidden, and, oh, yeah, we've got a 95% completion rate for training. Yes, we have a champions program, and those folks are really happy about it. Just those folks, right? Like, they're the ones who know about it because they're in the program. The CISO
Yes.
knows, right? But
Yeah.
where else are you able to shine the light of, hey, here's what we're doing, and here's how we're also impacting the org,
Right. No, that I think,
right?
that it's funny, but communication is so assumed a lot of times, right? We assume because we're talking about it, it's on our radar, then it just, it's just kind of that natural inclination that of course everyone knows, right? Because it's in our radar, then everyone else also knows. I've talked to the leadership, then surely it's gotten funneled down where really the onus is on us to make sure to be proactive, in communicating and making sure all the right people, like you said, the whole org as a whole has opportunity to be exposed to that messaging of what's going on and where to go. And, I think that's a really critical part of it for sure. So you've given us some great to-dos. What are a few maybe roadblocks or avoidances that we should be aware of that sometimes trip people up or they just aren't, aren't aware of?
So, I think the biggest thing is forgetting the why. So,
Hmm.
if we forget why we're in this business, why we're implementing our programs, we will easily get sidetracked into the team that carries out requests, right, for training or for comms, or will easily be seen as, did you guys kick off your training? Great, we met the control. Good. We have to remember the why we are enabling people, and that we need to
Hmm.
be like employee user centric, right? Everything we do should be like, how are we making sure that employees are working securely, engaging securely, right? That needs to be our why. And um, it's it's hard, but it's something that you have to be the champion of. Like, you are the one, whoever's running that program needs to continue to champion that through like meetings, through conversations. You know,
Hmm.
does this make sense? Does it make sense that we're putting it out? Does it make sense that we've written it this way? If I'm an employee following through with whatever steps, whatever process, does it make sense for me? Right?
Right. It's that
Remember who.
two-way feedback,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Feedback loop. Yeah. It's it's interesting how the feedback loop is something that we talk about in cybersecurity and how important it is, as a program overall, holistically, but especially within the training, right? And the messaging, to know that it made sense to me, right? As a marketer, we have to always be careful that we write messages that don't just make sense to us, but actually addresses, what people are really experiencing, out in the real in the real world. And so sometimes we have to, it's just a trial and error sometimes in testing it. But the best messaging you can create is when you get that feedback from the customer, right? And so it's the same kind of thinking of security awareness as the employees are your customer, and looking for that that information.
Absolutely.
All right. So are there any other whatnots to do?
I think.
No pressure to create something.
Oh,
I just want
no,
to make sure.
but
Okay.
well, I think we've this is such an area that we are like, experiencing pain in, that I would really focus on, like, just do more of X, right? Like, do
Yeah.
more of your promoting, do more of your like team program promoting. Um,
Right.
consistently share your wins, again, that tie to the goals that you've set, but then also the
Hmm.
wins that are on the edge of your sphere of influence, right? I did
Right.
this thing that helped the company, right?
Right.
My program did this thing that helped further our company goals. So that's my advice, is keep doing, even when you're tired and you're like, hey, we finally got this thing rolled out the door. Keep going, sustain that win,
Right.
um, and be your best and best and biggest cheerleader, for your program and your folks.
Well, one thing that surprised me, I guess one of the things I was expecting, right, to hear in communicating value, and was actually somehow conveying a number, right? Putting a number or a price tag to the program you're doing, right? And to, like, maybe putting a value on, number of incidents or phishing or whatever, and then you would use that. Is there any place, in uh, as you're talking with leadership, as you're trying to show, for those who are a little more business oriented and maybe not wanting just the qualitative kind of, you know, uh, storytelling, although I know that's extremely powerful. Is there a place also where people kind of assign a value to maybe, an incident or phishing, and then showing in those terms, we saved the company, or, kind of theoretical.
Yeah. So I think this is one of those things where it depends on your
Mhm.
like leadership. Um, and
Right.
I think as part of your program, you have to have metrics that actually show that you're doing what you said. So those KPIs that we mentioned before, that's
Mm-hmm.
where you would have identified those and said, like, here are the target things we're addressing, and let's see how those are changing over time. But the story is what provides the context to the numbers. So the storytelling doesn't exist if we haven't actually seen either through data,
Hmm.
big incident, right? What what's transpiring. The like a few additional metrics. I mean, you can think about if people have different like reporting requirements or fines, or hey, we just avoided an X dollar amount fine because this person did,
Wow.
ABC,
Right.
or here's how much
Right.
money, right? Like we paid because of deficiencies in our program, right?
Hmm.
That we're not seeing today, and here's why the investment is so important. So
Hmm.
yes, you can definitely make those claims. Um, my concern sometimes is that people don't they just see a number.
Mm.
They think, oh,
Right.
great. And when you think about that number by itself, it might actually be a drop in the bucket.
Right. Right.
So that's
So
why the
really,
story really matters
right.
around the set of data.
Exactly. Okay, so really the stronger emphasis is just on that constant communicating of the story, the change you're making with individuals or departments, the impact you're having, which is something that we've brought up in the past too. We did a interview with a filmmaker, right, and documentary. She does mini docs, and so she kind of taught it, gave tips on how to create, you know, um, videos within your company, right, to tell that story, to create that awareness from just the regular employee up to maybe the CISO or the CEO, and hearing their stories also helps kind of re-emphasize too the impact and the change. So really it's that kind of keeping it at the forefront without sounding like a broken record, but looking for those opportunities to inform, to contribute. um, so that makes a lot of sense, and keeping that story going, I guess, just viewing it as an ongoing story within the organization.
Yeah, and that's what builds it as part of the culture, right? Like
Hmm.
having it be that ongoing story. Um,
Right.
because someone looking at data, yours isn't the only program. They're looking at all of this data. All of these teams are putting together metrics and saying, hey, this is
Right.
doing this, it's doing this. But what's going to get you over the hump? What's going to get you, yes, I'm approved for my spending, and
Hmm.
maybe someone else's tool, right, doesn't get approved, to purchase, right? Like, so what does it take to really stand out? Well, you have to
Hmm.
go above and beyond just, right, like providing metrics that show, oh yeah, this is great, like good job, right? Like we want to go beyond that and be like, hey, we are providing tremendous impact to the organization. Like we are so valuable because of the skills, the processes we put in place, the programs that we put in place. Um, we need investment so that we can further like the company along. It's not just
Right.
right like in your space.
Right. No, I think that's really good. And it's interesting because it just seems to go back to, again, the storytelling, and that communication when it comes down to everything. So I think that's really interesting, and definitely something to learn more about and to improve ourselves in the soft skills for sure.
Yeah, and I'll add
So
one more thing,
yeah,
like that
please.
you just reminded me of. So one of the things that I used to look at in terms of am I being successful is being
Hmm.
able to get time or a spot on a report for like executive leadership or in their conversations, because
Uh-huh.
of all the things that are being worked on in the company, yours is being viewed as valuable enough to even talk about at that level. So not just the metrics, not just like, okay, the phishing rate, right? But
Right.
actually having considerable review discussion, right, at that leadership level. Like they are taking time to discuss this because it's of value
Right.
to the organization, like really of value. So seeing your program, seeing the the work that your team is doing be at that, be witnessed, discussed, expected at that top level is
Hmm.
such a great indicator of success.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So what about kind of your top 3 recommendations for someone who's maybe just getting started, or maybe they're just a team of one? What would be your recommendations for them to consider and to kind of focus on?
So, first, remember your value. If you're not sure what that value is, take time to think about all of your touch points, all of the things that are
Mhm.
going to enable you to be successful that are shared with other groups as well.
That's a great
Um,
point.
like those are the folks that you want to engage with. That's where you want to spend just a little bit more time, right? Like really understand your value.
Okay.
Um, learn the art of storytelling. So
Yeah.
Ayala, you tagged this one. It's so important to be able to say, yes, here's the information, here's explained by the data, but here's the magic behind it, what it means for you, what it means we need to do next.
Right.
Um, it's so important to be able to tell that story. And then also understand, and this ties to remembering your value, really understand that your program's reach and impact do really go beyond the standard, let's say, like 1980s awareness and training, right?
Yeah.
Um, plan or program, right? You have all of these amazing, what I call unicorn qualities,
Uh-huh.
and you really need to embrace that and make sure that you're being loud and proud about it and what you're putting out there. You are end user training, you are security training, you are coordinating, technical training, you are communications, you're a marketing expert, right? um,
Right.
you really embrace that and just think like, how else can I tap into the company and really start like rising up and showing,
Mhm.
hey, here's the value that can be provided, right, through my
Right.
program.
I think that's great. Well, those are some really good points. And, as you're talking, it reminded me also just with LinkedIn, when we talk about and tell people about, even just being consistent and putting your message out there consistently, right? It builds up over time and people do start to notice you. So I kind of see that also, being applicable here too, of what you're saying, communicating that value, being consistent in having that conversation, right? Consistently speaking and having your voice. So I think that those are some really great insights. If anybody's you know want to find you, is LinkedIn the best way for them to connect?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
I
Awesome.
enjoy connecting with folks over LinkedIn. I've been able to engage and create some really cool stuff. I think that's what's magical about this community. We find someone and we just start planning, and how do we engage people, how do we do this, how do we move the needle. And yeah, I welcome additional connections and you know more opportunities to just create in this space.
Great. Well, wonderful. I'm real excited to have you today. Thank you so much for your time. And we will be making a recording and sending that out as well if someone didn't catch the first part. So thank you so much. And we'll be in touch. And I look forward to learning more from you, following you on LinkedIn.
Thank you.